discussion and demo while talking about the incorporation of Gemini in Google Classroom and how Gemini looks at the amalgamation and integration of various forms and tasks and various steps that are required whenever we look at trying to create, let's say, instructional material or syllabus or course design, course outlines, unit outlines, etc., with the integration in Google Classroom. Going forward today, we are going to be talking about something similar along the same lines. And one very major limitation that the two ways in which we can look at Gemini has given to us so far, especially with yesterday's discussion, is the fact that it requires for us to have an access to an institutional email ID. As I have mentioned earlier, it's not possible to access all those options with Gemini in a regular email account. So today we are going to look at an alternative platform in the first half where we can try to do some of the things which are similar to what we have seen yesterday, but with a slightly different approach. And we're also going to see after that another platform which allows us, which works as a chatbot, but for one very simple purpose, which is to allow us to create very interesting visuals for integration into our existing presentations that we create. So let's begin the discussion for today. Let me share my screen and we will get started with the demo for today's tools. So our today's discussion is going to be happening for a tool which doesn't require any access to any institutional ID. All we need is a regular Gmail account with accessibility to a Google Doc like this. And over the last few days, as I have shared my screen, I'm sure you must have noticed this icon right here. This is what we're going to be talking about today. This is our first platform for today. It works on the same language model that powers ChatGPT. And why I said this is a slightly different approach is because it has a slightly different way by the means of which it works. Yeah, I think somebody has mentioned the name of the same, which is Brisk Teaching or Brisk as a platform. So this is the homepage of Brisk. Some of us may be aware of this already, as I think somebody has mentioned it in the chat box. We're going to spend some time on this and then move towards my next tool. Now, this is what Brisk looks like. The good part is that it doesn't need any accessibility in the form of an institutional email ID, and it is able to sync very easily with our existing Google Doc or the Google Suite that we are using on a free tier version or a free platform. And what we have to do in order to access this is this particular section, for example, allows us to see the homepage. This is the homepage of the tool itself. And this tab, when I click on it, which is the I am a teacher tab, it takes me to or redirects me to the sign up page, where by clicking on the same account which I'm using for my Google Workspace, I'll be able to sync both Brisk and my Google Suite together for my email account. So as we can see, it says welcome to Brisk so and so. If I click on start setup, it will ask me a few questions like this. It is already set up in my device, but I'm just showing you how it can be set up one by one. Let's just say I'll put this here. Select your subject. Click on continue. Select the target level of the audience that are the students that we're teaching. This is optional. I just say social media. And this is where Brisk comes. So now Brisk is actually available in the form of a browser extension. So what we have to do is, in order to use it, we have to add it to our browser, whatever we are using, be it Google Chrome, be it Microsoft Edge, whatever we are using. It is available as a part of the Chrome Web Store. And since it's already added to my extension, to my browser, currently it is telling me to remove extension. If you try to add it for the first time, it will say add to Chrome, in irrespective of whichever browser we are using. We just have to simply click on that, post which we'll be able to, once it goes through a few steps, it will be available inside this manage extensions tab right here, from where I can enable or disable it depending on my preference or my requirement. And once it is enabled, once it has been set up, it looks like this. And it is again telling me to sign in because it is not signed up in this version. Since I signed in once, now I think I should be good to go. Let me just refresh it once so that it should be able to see that I have signed in already. Okay, I think it should be working now. Yeah. So once it is set up and once we have signed in, this is what Brisk looks like. When you log in for the first time, they do have two different plans. One is called as Educator Free Plan, and then they have a premium plan also. For the first few days, I think it's about 12 to 15 days or so, where we get access to its all of the features, which would be typically available in a premium plan, where we can explore as to what all it can do. But even the free version is quite sufficient for the day-to-day usage that we want to have, based on some of the most important the features in the demo that we have seen yesterday. So what we need to do is, for in order for us to use any of these features, let me just turn off these extra tabs. We just have to click on create. And as we can see, it has a lot of options for us to select from. Some of them are pretty similar to what we have covered yesterday. The only difference is the way in which it functions, or the way in which it generates its output. And it is slightly more generous in terms of the number of items or elements that we can create based on the option that we are selecting for the final output that we require. So let's look at some of the few elements. Let's say I start with the syllabus first. I'll click on syllabus. Now, no matter whichever option I select, it will always give me this kind of an output window for me to choose my input and to give instruction to it. And we can see that there are a few more things that I can do here, from selection of the primary option, which if I go back here, I can click on this arrow, it will take me back to the main menu. I can also do so by clicking on this icon right here. This is the drop down menu for the target language in which the output has to be generated. So whatever language I select here, the output will come directly in that language. Assuming that I want to get an output apart from any other language in English, let's say I'm trying to design a syllabi for any other language, like let's say foreign language, or if I want an output in any of the vernacular languages also, that is possible. We can see there are some options right here. The list is pretty long. We can try all of them. Works pretty well. Then comes this part right here, which is the selection of the AI model. Now, as I said, it has two plans. Currently, since I am already downgraded to the free version, I cannot use this one. This arrow, this star means that it's a premium plan. It will automatically tell me to go to the premium version in order for me to access that part. But without that also, it works pretty good. So I'll just stick to the standard AI. Then this is the format by the means of which I can get an output. This is something they've added recently. Earlier, it only used to work with Google Docs. So when it started out, we had to keep a Google Doc window open, or at least the email ID open for it to work properly. But I think now they've started in Microsoft Word also. So let's look at that. We'll try that out first. Then we have to select our target learner level or the target audience. Let's say university. I can now select the duration of my course, which I want to create. Goes from 1 week all the way to 36 weeks. We'll go with the standard normal output of 16 weeks. And here, unlike Gemini, where we had to be very specific with regards to learning outcomes and the topics that we had to enter, We can be pretty detailed about the kind of exact topics for which we want the syllabus to be created. So let's say, for example, that I am trying to create a syllabus on a course for English for tourism and hospitality with a focus on vocabulary and let's not say vocabulary with a focus on soft skills needed in hospitality sector. So apart from that, it also has this option of prompt history where we can see some pre-created templates by the means of which I can select whichever template I want to look at. I'll just close that part. And we also have the standard tabs right here, which would be useful if there is a specific standard or rubric on the basis of which we wanted to create our syllabus. It has a lot of options which are divided according to demography or according to the target location. We even have CFR here if we want to choose that as well. I'm not going to choose anything right now. This is just for reference. Oh, I think I lost my prompt. Again, I'll have to go back. I'll just say this time English for tourism and hospitality with a focus on soft skills. And then all we have to do is, if I click on include sources, it will show me the sources as well. I'll click on brisket and okay, for the first time, I think it will ask me to choose an account. I'll do the same output which I have selected. Let's give it access to that. Now, in a few seconds, we should be getting a file. If it works properly, we should be able to download a file wherein it gives me the exact output that I have asked for. And let's just to see it in action, I'll again give it another prompt by the means of which we can see it in Google Doc. So change this to Google Doc now, and I'll click on brisket again. And now we should be seeing this output here. Okay, let's wait for include sources. Just a second. I think it is creating one, so that's why it is not letting me edit anything. Yeah, it is already working on something. So I think until that file downloads, I won't be able to change the prompt. Let's go to another feature in the meantime. Let's see if that works. Suppose a rubric needs to be created. Okay, it is not going to work. Fine. We'll give it a few seconds. I hopefully the file downloads and then we can go ahead from there. In the meantime, I'm going to parallelly start doing the demo of my next tool. Now, this one is primarily meant for the teaching fraternity in the sense that it's a tool that's useful for the planning process. And this particular tool has multiple sub tools inside of it, which can be used in a variety of ways. And this also works on the same mechanism of a chatbot. Just a second. I think the downloads were my file should have been downloaded, but apparently seems that it has stopped the pop-up. Sorry for that. We'll just go with the Google Doc this time. Yeah. Pick the file you would like to use. And okay, now I think it should be good to go. Sorry for that delay. Somehow the Word file did not download. I don't know why, but this is what it does. Once the correct Google Doc has been selected and we have the same account which is accessible to both Brisk and to the Google Workspace, it will utilize the prompt that we give, and on the basis of that, it will give me this output right here. It's a very basic working draft for whichever category we select. So a course description, it's pretty similar to what Gemini did. Course outcomes, objectives, the breakdown of the gradation pattern, and a weekly schedule with a list of topics that have to be covered while trying to look at the various topics that it lists for us. And apart from that, it also gives me this part right here, which can be further accessed by making it longer, making it shorter, etc., depending on what we want to create out of it. Now, on the basis of this, if let's say I want to, let me download this file, it's a Word file separately. Let's say I want to give some depth of knowledge questions. I'll simply describe the topic for which the depth of knowledge questions have to be selected. So let's say, for example, a topic like impact of AI on modern education system. Rest of the things remain the same. Let's try to get the output in a different language, maybe let's say Hindi this time. And I'll click on Brisket again. It might ask me to choose a destination file. It has not, because now it has access to it. And as we can see, it goes on to generate DOK questions based on I have deliberately selected the output language as Hindi to give me a version of the same. And this is what I can do. I can make it longer. I can translate it. Now let's say I want the same in English. I'll click on translate to English. I'll also say make it longer and more detailed. Let's go to this part right here which says boost it. Then it will keep this draft as it is. It will work from here itself, and we should be getting an output between these two spaces, or at the end of the document, wherein it will try to translate the entire piece of primary source that it has to the target language that we had that I've selected. So in this, I think I selected English here, and we should be getting an output in English also for the exact same list with the other additional details that I've selected. Today it seems there's some problem with Brisk. It's not responding as fast as it should. Maybe I think they're updating it as we speak because it is buffering here. Let me refresh it once more. All right. But those translations usually work pretty well. It's pretty easy to do so. Now, let's say I want to create a set of instructional material. Now, this works similar to Gemini in terms of its length, and it is called as guided notes. Here, I can describe the topic or the focus of attention that I want to have in order for a set of guided notes to be generated or instructional material to be generated. Let's go with a different example this time. Suppose let's go with a set of factual information. Let's say, for example, suppose this is the topic which I am trying to get some info out of. Karl Marx, in his book Das Kapital, its impact on Marxism. So once we click on Brisket again, this is what it does. So guided notes will create these kind of worksheets, which can be very easy to utilize directly without any major changes to be made to it. And if I go back to Brisk and click on this resource tab, if let's say on the same thing, I want to generate some reading material also with specific reference to Marxism and ideology, suppose, and then I click on Brisket, and again, it will go below the currently generated draft that we have. And this is what it does. So resources will generate these kind of overviews from the specific topic that we have asked for. And on the other hand, the guided notes would generate the specific worksheets which can be utilized as a starting point for practicing, or to be able to create questions which can give some idea of the assessment on the basis of what I want to select. I'll come back to this in a second. Now, one very interesting thing which I particularly like Brisk for is two more elements. One is this part right here, which is a quiz. So with the quiz, as I said, it's more generous apart from Gemini, in the sense that it lets me create 20 different questions. The only thing is, in order for me to create so there are pros and cons of both. As I said on day one, we have to decide which tool to choose for which purpose. While Gemini creates all the questions simultaneously, Brisk allows me to create one question category at a time. So let's say, for example, I am looking for descriptive questions. I have to select long for response as an option right here. The pro side of it is that it can give me 5 extra questions as compared to Gemini, because Gemini has a limit of 15 questions, whereas this one can give up to 20 in one go. But the downside is I cannot select all three together. I have to select them one at a time. But if I go one by one, I can have a data bank of 60 questions in one go, depending on the not even depending on any topic that I put in into this platform. So let me delete all of this, and we'll now give it a topic. Let's say, for example, let's try something else this time. Uh, so let's say quantum computing and machine learning, and 20 long responses I'm looking for. And let's specify this part with answers. I'll click on Brisket again, and this time what it will do is it will give me 20 descriptive questions on the topic that I've asked for. Okay, I think I selected Google form as my output. Okay, I needed to change that, but okay, it does show me what I wanted to show next. So it automatically transitions to a Google form where it gives a pre-created set of quiz, which I can modify if I want to, with a set of answers. However, if that's not what I want to do, if I want to get the output here, I should be able to do so. I had to change the output from here, go to Google Doc. And now we should be getting an output on this screen instead of the form itself. So as we can see, it follows the typical assessment format. Instructions, question followed by a response space. And the 20 questions is what it will generate. As we can see, we'll come back to the quality of the questions in a minute. And once the questions have been given, it did not generate the answers which it would have. Anything you'd like to change? Yes. Okay, answer key is here. It had to be selected separately. I think this is something they've changed a little bit. Earlier, it used to come directly with the prompt itself, but as we can see, now the evaluative guidelines for the answers are also coming. based on the questions that have been given, and it will go through each of the question. It will give me it question wise also, along with some other guidelines as to how to do the assessment and take it forward. And the second way of getting an output is this part right here. And I mean, it has a limit now on the, I think about, it's about 4 or 5 forms, if I 4 or 5 times where I can convert it to forms, if I'm not mistaken. After which it will pop up a message like this, which says I have reached my limit. Either I have to wait for it to reset, or else I have to upgrade to a premium version. As I said, pros and cons of tools. Gemini doesn't have any such limitation. We can do it as many number of times as we like. The only thing is, we have to access it through that ID which I've talked about. So that is one. And one last element which I really like inside of Brisk is this part right here, which is a lesson plan. It works pretty well because what it does is it gives me the flexibility as a user to plan or to give me to get a plan for a topic or an idea which I'm brainstorming on down to the last minute. So it begins with 20 minutes, goes all the way to 120 minutes, which is essentially a 2-hour session. Let's go with that. We'll keep the rest of it as it is. We'll try to give it a topic which is slightly more different this time. Let's say, for example, something like theories of public speaking in the context of Indian English language variety. Click on Brisket again. We should be getting an output directly, as we can see right here. So it will try to follow the exact format of what the lesson plan would look like. And we can see that it has given us a minute-to-minute breakdown of how the session can be taken forward. Lesson overview, objectives, common core communication standards, discussion activities, small group analysis of Indian language characteristics, identify unique pronunciation, vocabulary, and syntactical patterns, then theoretical frameworks that to be used. Uh, Pedagogy of lecture has to be interactive. Goes on to talk about quite a bit more. Linguistic mapping exercise, performance and critique, etc. And this it creates an entire lesson plan like this. So in this way, I mean, by any chance, if we don't have access to that institutional ID that we require to access Gemini, we can utilize Brisk to overcome that. The only limitation is it has certain features which are limited in the free plan. If you find it useful, we can always think of upgrading it if required. So this was the first platform. I'll come back to this second one in a minute. It's a slightly smaller platform. We'll come back to that. But my second platform, which I originally wanted to show, as I mentioned in the beginning of my discussion today, is the one which allows us to create very detailed visuals, which are also quite interesting and visually appealing to look at, which allows us to also compact and present information visually in a very two simple step process. And the platform that I'm referring to is this one called as, and again, most of its features are pretty free to use. It doesn't require any major upgrade as such. This is the platform. It's called Napkin. What it does need is we need to sign in once we use it for the first time. And when we open it for the first time, this is the output that we would get. What I really like about Napkin, and one of the facts which really makes it useful and easy to use for that matter, is that its user window or its user environment is very user friendly. It doesn't have that much of a learning curve. There aren't too many technical settings which need to be done. It gives us this very simple and minimalistic looking search window that we have to write our prompt on. Works like a chatbot in that way. And any kind of a content that we want to generate, it can be a detailed description, it can be something as simple as a title of a topic, anything that we want to create, it will take care of that. Let's say, for example, we'll go with this sample which it has given. It's a good example, the best practices for a hiring interview. Once the input has been written, I can type it also. This works in 2 steps, as I mentioned. I have to click on continue, and it will first generate a descriptive uh, piece of writing for the topic or the query that I have entered. And we can see it's quite comprehensive. And now this can be considered as a notebook, which is a virtual notebook space, which is completely editable. In case I want to edit something, I can simply type that using any normal Word or text editing platform like Microsoft Word that I'm using, and I can simply change whatever I want to. Each and every element of this entire output that has been generated is editable, and it saves it in real time. Each time I change something, it will say edit, it will say saved, it will be saved in our library. Now, this is the first part. Let's say I want to convert this to a good looking visual. Now, there are two ways of doing this. So in the first instance, I can select the entire content that I have and create one single visual out of it. But let's say I have multiple slides in my presentation. I want to divide this into multiple visuals, and I have sections that I want. So what we do is we select the first half, which is pre-interview preparation, and we will stop it here, which is still second part, conducting the interview. So this is our input, and we want our visual to be created out of this. Once we have selected this, after making all the changes that we want in the content, we see this button right here. We just have to click on it, and it will analyze this content. Analyze means it will go through it, understand it, what it is doing. This color change that we see here is that process. And on the basis of that, it will give us suggestions like these. These are all the designs which are representing the content that we have entered in brief, and what are the major ideas behind this part of the content that we have prepared. So, and then it gives us all these options to choose from, and then we get to decide what kind of visual do we want, or do we want to put in. There are a lot more. I can click on more. It will continue to generate them. As you can see, I can select any that I want. Now, if I click on more, it will load more, of course. It will try to load as many as it can. Now, depending on the one that I found to be most interesting, I can select that as my primary input. Let's say I'll go with this one. This is the first step. If I click on this, it will further take me to further substyles within the primary template, and I can decide which one do I want to keep for my final version according to the color scheme and the font and the kind of output that I'm looking for. If it is a multicolor format that I'm looking for, etc. So we'll select one. I think I found one that was quite good. Maybe it was this one. No. Just a second. This one looks good. So once this is done, and we can see that our text remains as it is on the top. The text doesn't go anywhere. Below the text, we would get this output in the form of this visual. Each and every element of this visual is also editable. Now, there are two kinds of editing we can do. First is the background color of this entire visual. If I want to change that, I can come to this toolbar right here that we see. It will automatically expand. I can first change the style again if I want. Let's say I'm not satisfied with this. I want to change it. I can do so. I can select whichever one I want. This one allows me to change the aspect ratio. It has 3, 16:9, 4:5, and 1:1. 16:9 is the usual one. Then comes the positioning, if I want to change the positioning. And this is the color palette. Whichever color I select, it will let me visualize what the background color would look like if I were to put it in a presentation or a slide somewhere. So, and this is where there are some limitations. These are the number of colors that are available in the free version. If I want to add more colors, we can see that it says add custom colors, but it's a part of the pro plan. But I think this is pretty good. It has some options to select from. Let's suppose this is the one I want to keep. I select that and it automatically adds it there, post which I can then come to this part right here. Let's say, assuming that my entire element is ready, I can click on export. It allows me to download this image in 4 different ways: as a PNG file without any background, an SVG vector image, a PDF version, or a PowerPoint presentation itself. The best one out of all 4, of course, would be a PNG or an SVG file, because then I can copy paste it and I can take it to any presentation that I want. And this is what the final version looks like. It's pretty good. One thing to keep a note of is that in the free version, it will have this watermark. Again, if we want to remove this, we have to upgrade to the pro plan. That is something. There are ways of course, changing it. I can change my template of my presentation and I can make this part hidden. That's something we can easily do. But if we want to do that, that is. But let's say I want to again remove this background color. I'll just bring it back to white. And this is the first step of editing. Apart from this, I can edit any of these text elements also. Let's say I want to change the font of the title. I want, instead of Roboto, I want some other font. That's a courier. I can select that. I can decide whether I want to keep it bold or not. I can change the font size right from small to XL. And I can change the positioning by dragging the font right here using my mouse. And on the basis of that, I can decide the positioning of the entire element as well. Apart from that, I can also change its alignment and the positioning here. Plus, I can change the text color as well separately if I wish to do so. Let's keep it black only. And then if I want any kind of a background, a border, if at all it is required. In the same way, all of this can be changed separately. Each of these elements are editable. Colors can be changed, size, thickness, shape. So this is an intuitive platform. It understands the content that I'm selecting and it will give me editing options according to that. Plus, there is another toolbar here which allows me to add additional elements. Let's say I want to add some more text in this image. I can click on label. That label can be pasted anywhere. It says type anything. In this way, I can add the subtitle if I want to. And from there, I can then change it like any normal text. I can change its positioning, etc. And this one allows me to sketch something. And this is for those of us who are pretty good with virtual sketching. So they can do that. I can add my own images as well. I can upload them from my device. I can drag and drop them, etc. And also, one last thing, I can add additional shapes or elements using the Spark search feature. Whatever shape I select, just need to be careful about spellings. So the moment when I select interview, I think it went away. It, as I said, it's an intuitive platform. It understands what kind of images would I or shapes would I want. So it has given this interview kind of a small shape. If I select this, I can add this also here. And in this way, the entire image can be edited, right? So, but as I said in the beginning, there are two ways of doing this. One is to create a section-wise visual like this and get a set of visuals. Suppose, let's say I simply delete this from here. I'll bring it back to its original version and I'll show you the next part, which is it's similar in terms of getting the output for the entire. So all I have to do now, select the entire text and click on this button again. This time it will generate a visual overview of the entire content of the entire process that has been described here. It will come at the end of the image. And as we can see, based on so this is what I was trying to say, based on the content that we have put here, the output styles will change. It has now understood that this is not just one phase that we are talking about, rather it's a complete cycle. So it has changed its visual patterns that it is suggesting to us. And then the process remains the same. I can download this again. Let's try a SVG this time. SVG would have this kind of a background, I think, which would not be directly accessible, or else if I click on PPT, it should give me a presentation. But the best resolution, to my experience, comes out directly in the PNG version. Then it becomes very easy to copy paste it. This is the PPT version of the same. Right here, as we can see, it's already a part of the slide. And I can add on further slides from here. if required, right? So this is the second platform for today. It's called Napkin. I think pretty useful as to what it can do. And there's one last thing which I wanted to show before I open up for some questions. So I have already heard of AI-based platforms for creation of presentations. We all know that already Canva is attempting to integrate AI into its pre-existing software and platform that we are using, the students also use. They have come out with various tools like Gamma, Presentations AI, etc., which are good for creating presentations. But there also we are seeing multiple iterations of the same. What I want to show you is a new platform I have recently come across. I am exploring it right now. I came across it just a few 2 3 days ago. It's called Voxtech, and I found it to be really interesting. Let me just share my just stop sharing my screen for a minute. I'm going to share the tab instead. There's something I want us to listen to. So just give me a second. Now this is something I was experimenting on, which was to create a PPT out of technical presentation. It's pretty easy to use. It just requires us for to give it the prompt, and once I click on view, this is the final version. It should. Let me see if this one has it.
Welcome to our presentation on designing syllabi with fanfiction, web series, and pop texts. This innovative approach to curriculum design bridges traditional academia with contemporary media, creating more engaging and relevant learning experiences. We'll explore three key components: fanfiction for creative writing and analysis, web series for digital storytelling, and pop texts for cultural literacy. Together, these elements form a powerful framework for 21st century education that meets students where they are in our digital age. Let's examine the evolution of curriculum design. The traditional paradigm focused on canon-centric literature with hierarchical knowledge transmission, often limiting student engagement with contemporary media. Our contemporary approach emphasizes inclusive textual diversity, student-centered learning, and digital literacy. Why popular culture texts? They offer relevance through familiar narratives, foster critical thinking about social issues, increase student engagement, and prepare learners for evolving literary landscapes. As educators, we must evolve to meet students where they are, not where we think they should be. Fanfiction represents transformative literary works that deserve academic recognition. These texts demonstrate sophisticated engagement with source materials through intertextuality, reader agency, cultural commentary, and diverse voices. Pedagogically, fanfiction cultivates critical thinking, creative writing skills, and literary analysis while engaging students with familiar cultural touchstones. It bridges popular culture and academic discourse, offering benefits like enhanced engagement, improved writing confidence, and cultural literacy development. As contemporary literary studies notes, fanfiction represents a new form of literary citizenship in our digital age. Web series represent a revolutionary shift in narrative delivery, combining traditional storytelling with digital accessibility.
So I won't show this. It has about 8 slides or so. Let me reshare my screen. So this represents the next evolutionary step in terms of presentation tools. What it required for us to do, if I go back to the input window, it's as I said, it's very easy to use. This works on a credit system, by the way, just like Gamma. There are 2 steps to it. In the first step, we enter our topic. It will give us a set of templates to work with, and there are very limited amount of credits that it has in the free plan, so I'm not putting the presentation in. You can try it out. Very easy to do. Just for those of us who have used Karma, they'll find it very easy. In the next step, it will give you the option of whether you want to add a voiceover or not. And once you say yes, on the basis of your content in the slides, it will give us the, in fact, I can show you the created presentation. So on the basis of that, it will give us the steps where it generated each slide and then the voice overview script. And once we can go through that script, let me go to the thinking part. I just want to see if the script is there or not. It allows us to create that script and edit it also. And on the basis of that, I can edit the presentation like this and have a presentation which is visually ready to be shown. Plus, I can have this voiceover, which sort of at the end of my lecture, once I've delivered this, gives us an overview of this entire presentation also, by offering some new insights into it. Or alternatively, it can be played at the beginning of a lecture as well, post which there can be some activities which can be done. Let's say if I'm teaching presentation skills itself, as to what were the gaps in this presentation voiceover, what kind of additional elements needed to be added to it, etc. So this is one of the more interesting platforms to explore. See if it is useful in any way. I mean, you can try it out. And it has about 400 credits that it gives with the first initial plan. So these are some of the tools for today. I think we're exactly on time. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. We'll open up for some questions. In case there are any questions, any doubts, please feel free to unmute.